Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old to history to anecdotes, really wherever our whims take us. It's crossover time. You knew I couldn't resist. And apparently so did Dynamite, because they were kind enough to reach out and send me Vampirella vs. Re-Animator, whose story you know I'm going to share with you. Re-Animator is a cult classic treasure with 3 different cuts that I've seen all of, and I will take any opportunity to talk about in any form.
What are you thinking? How do you feel?
Also, Vampirella is in this. Now, Dynamite has a history of crossing over the different properties under its umbrella. So Vampirella meeting up with Ash from Army of Darkness / Evil Dead, Red Sonja, Betty and Veronica, it's par for the course. So from an internal company standpoint, this makes sense. Take all the properties, put them together, see what happens, just go with it. From an external standpoint, it looks like, why? Who asked for this? You put your mustard in my peanut butter. Or rather, you got your science in my vampire story. In this case, alien vampire story. This intrigued me, not just because of my most likely over-enthusiastic love of the 1980s Re-Animator, but also because of my curiosity about any and all crossovers, and a fascination with whether the more bizarre out there can work. And this ends up making more sense than you'd think it would. Not total sense, just more. I mean, listen to this write-up. Herbert West, the Re-Animator, has long sought the secret to perfecting his reagent and break death's hold on mankind once and for all. The key to his success lies in only one place, the forbidden tomb of the Aztec God of Death. But disturbing sleeping gods is as troubling, to put it mildly, as raising the uncontrollable murderous dead, especially when this deity is an ancient enemy of Vampirella of Drakulon. It's vampire versus mad scientist in a battle that threatens to tear the gates of the underworld asunder. Not even apart, asunder. You know you have to read that, or at least I did. So just why is Herbert West about to square off against Vampirella? Get ready to be reanimated. I'll see myself out. But before I do that, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, join us on this comic book journey. Also, I have merch now, so if you want to adorn yourself with some Casually Comics wear or drink from a Casually Comics cup, we have Casually Comics code approved and poot. So if you're interested, the link is below in the description box, and the shelf is also active. Look, Ma, I'm a real YouTuber. Vampirella vs. Re-Animator was written by Cullen Bunn with art by Blacky. It was published in 2018 and ran 4 issues through part of 2019. Now, it does help going into this crossover, as with most, to be aware of each of the characters. The comic is pretty cliff notes about assuming that you already have some prior knowledge upon entering, as both of the descriptions of the characters are brief and cursory, so it expects you to be familiar or hit the ground running. So this impacts you also if you're only familiar with one of the characters, which likelihood is you would be, picking up such a specific and niche crossover. Let me give you some overview. So Herbert West. Now you can take either the version from the original H.P. Lovecraft story or the 1985 Stuart Gordon directed, Brian Yunza produced, Jeffrey Combs starring Bonanza.
We can defeat death. We can achieve every doctor's dream. You'll be famous and live lifetimes.
Basically, Herbert West is a student obsessed with death. He creates a reagent that can reanimate, hence the name, the dead. Personally, since this is more modern and the character design is vaguely Combsy, I veer towards that. Plus, it's written very in tone with that rendition. I heard Jeffrey Combs' line delivery while reading this. Plus, some quotes from the author seem to veer in that direction. Next up, Vampirella, and we're going full-on alien from Drakulon. Classic Warren Years origin. We've actually done a video on Vampirella's origin, a couple, so if you missed that, card and link. Links down below, card on the side. So how did this idea come about? Well, Cullen stated, "Oh, you know I dug around for some receipts. I needed to understand the madness." I remember sitting on the floor in the drugstore reading Vampirella magazines while my mom was shopping. I always felt like I was doing something I shouldn't, reading something I shouldn't, and I liked that feeling. I discovered Herbert West first through the movies and later through Lovecraft stories. Watching the movie, I felt the same way, that I was watching something that wasn't meant for me. Both of these characters felt like dirty little secrets. Now, having them meet on the comic page, we can see if we can create some dark horror secrets of our own. But that's not really how the concept itself came about. For that, we need to hear from the artist. I just thought it was a great fit. I was attending a horror convention and talking with people, and the idea just popped into my head. Within an hour or so, I had a rough idea of the story. Vampirella is basically a god with superhuman abilities, and Herbert West is just a man with a reagent serum. But his intellect and drive puts him in a class that can stand toe-to-toe with this warrior of Drakulon. I love the idea of Herbert West as a kind of ringleader of ghouls and monsters that Vampirella has to fight her way through. So there you go. Why? Why not? But an excited, come on, it'll be cool, why not? The cover features our 2 titular leads as an Aztec mummy returns to life, reaching towards them. It's certainly not lying to you, this is the core of the ultimate plot, but on the whole, it's not the most exciting cover outside of the why are these characters together factor. Herbert is also gazing at nothing. Yeah, it's supposed to be dispassionate and cool, but it just looks like he's frozen. Vampirella looks alright, just vaguely concerned. Now, there were variants for this, and you do get to see them in the trade. I think my favorites were the one by Stuart Sager and the one by Nick Varela. Thematically, Varela's more, but for color is Sager. It's also very thirsty. Thirstier than me, that's for sure. We open somewhere in Mexico, and right away you can see that we're working on a mostly black and white color gradation with some accents here and there. We'll be seeing red, green, and later purple. This is deliberate. The editor, Matt Idelson, stated, "You'll find the pages are mostly in gray tone rather than full color. We're doing a Warren magazine homage of sorts, saving spot color for just the yellow Re-Animator serum and the reds on Vampy's costume and such." Wait, yellow? Yellow? Am I colorblind? Yeah, I guess it is yellow, or like a really light acid green. I think it should be greener. Maybe this green. Or this green. Yes, I dressed up for the Re-Animator video. I'm very excited. West is researching ways to improve his reagent. He's dedicated to trying any method. He's not going to rule anything out. He's like Dr. Doom like that. He's not going to be held back because science and magic are competing or supposedly opposites. No, he's going to try it all. But now, in the pages of these esoteric texts I've perhaps found, would you please keep it down? I can't hear myself think. He's found a book, a text that he claims has equations in it on top of what he calls the pseudo-religious rantings. He's convinced he's close to a breakthrough. He's used his reagent on the corpses from a nearby village, so they killed the monks for him. No chill. None. Time to meet Vampirella, who's saving a woman from some werewolves. The name's Vampirella.
Vampirella?
I'm not your average hero. I'm a vampire from another world. Run. I'll never not give a really awkward, embarrassing wolf howl. Why not? Never let it be said that I have not suffered for science. I have been exiled by my peers, reviled by society. Yeah, both West and Vampy are equally melodramatic, but in very different ways. Vampirella is a bit more of I'm cool and I've seen things, and West is all woe is me, but I'm also a genius, I guess. The shift between the two is a bit abrupt at first. West has come to an ancient temple where he comes upon a tomb where suddenly a bat-like apparition lights the torch for him, leading him towards the center. Smoke and mirrors. Parlor tricks. Interior temple scares, 2 out of 5. That's gonna be his Yelp review. These apparitions appear before Vampirella as she's washing all that werewolf off her. It turns out that she left them there. There's some kind of warning system. But it's too late. West has already used his reagent on one of the mummies and reawakened. Hold on, give me a moment. Mictacatl. The lady god of death. That's something that I'm not going to be saying again until I get better at it. So perhaps in a few weeks. No, watch this come up again. Now it's just gonna be, this is the death god we're gonna see. Kinda hope so. I wanna be an expert. Issue 2. West is not taken aback by any of this and is in fact a little annoyed that she's threatening him. A bit of civility. Some appreciation seems appropriate here. He goes to reanimate her husband, but she stops him, says that he failed her and that it was West who brought her back stronger than ever.
I have found my god of death.
And then she kisses him and he's not here for it, so she assaults him. It's also clear that she's done something to him, which we'll find out what it is a tiny bit later on. Let's not rush ahead. Our Aztec lady god of death is all business, saying she must raise an army to deal with her, the her in question being Vampirella. I have so many questions. Yeah. You and me both. So we see Vampirella millennia ago battling these self-proclaimed gods of death on Drakulon in armor that I'm not sure how I feel about. They look really cool as spider creatures. Vampirella defeats them, but knows given their immortality and hers, it's likely that she'll have to deal with them again at some point. She says that she can't kill them because without their bodies they'll become even closer linked to death. So she stuck them on a tomb on Earth. Gee, thanks. The kiss, it turns out, was so that West could understand our Lady Aztec God of Death. That is still easier to say, for me at least, than her actual name. I am so sorry. He couldn't before. She was speaking Drakulonian, but if you miss those symbols along the side that signify the different languages being spoken, you would just think that she's ignoring him, which would also have been a viable possibility. Anyway, she starfired him and now they can talk. She wants him to reanimate her ghost spiders. Meanwhile, Vampirella has arrived at the tomb where she finds some reagent on the floor. I know he was real flustered because of everything going on, but I find it hard to believe that he would have left that there. That's his life, his raison d'etre. But he had to, you know, so the plot could happen. Our Lady Death has offered West control of death, which he's more into than becoming a god, which rubs him the wrong way. But Vampirella arrives to stop all of this.
Vampirella, I was hoping to see you again.
Vampirella was unprepared for the souped up ghost spiders and is not a match for the strength boost her enemy has gained because of the reagent, and so she retreats to think of a new plan. Well, that sucked. Was that a vampire joke? I'm gonna pretend it was, because it makes me happy. I'm sure it was. Yeah, it was. Vampirella needs a new plan, and so she says that she's gonna reanimate, okay, we're gonna try this one more time, Mikta Kakuatul's husband. It sounded better, or at least more confident. It's probably still wrong. I love how she's like, wait till he sees how comfy she is with that nerdy scientist, when all she saw them doing was standing next to each other talking. Issue 3. Under Our Lady Aztec God of Death's tutelage, West has been able to make a new strain of reagent, a superior one. This one is purple.
My magic, my alchemy mixed with your science has borne fruit. Look at what we have built.
Ew, it's gross. I love it. Vampirella's efforts have worked, but her would-be ally attacks her, you know, for killing him and his wife and stranding them on some backwater planet. But she convinces him that he needs to go see what his wife has been up to. She's been making purple drink and he needs to know about it. Actually, she's telling West that he needs to inject the gate. It'll be fine. He'll get control of death. Trust the random god lady. It's totally cool. Just inject it. Purple stuff right to the weird hellgate. Teamwork makes the dream work. The panels of the gate opening are excellent. Very classic 80s body horror and Yunza-esque. It's now that her husband shows up and assumes that West was trying to usurp him. Vampy reacts like she's about to go get some popcorn. It's during this fight that the worst line, in my opinion, in the series occurs. If you've been here a while, you'll know that I have mixed feelings about characters using slang or very current or modern colloquial language, the kind of stuff that will pass out of fashion in a few years. Especially if the character is meant to be very old, and would more likely than not have settled into a speech pattern that precluded keeping up with the kids. Unless that's part of their character, or they're trying to stay hip or on top of things, or are good at blending into any time. I'm stalling. So Vampy has to get West out of the way of the two gods who are now fighting, and she says, I guess I've forgotten how chauvinistic these ancient gods were. He's awakened, but totally not woke. There's low-hanging fruit, and then there's fruit that somebody took a bite of and threw on the side of the road. It's so obviously meant to speak to a modern, in quotes, reader that I found it jarring, and it unimmersed me for a hot minute. Yes, of course, people can learn and use slang, but she's not even talking to anybody. This is her internal monologue. I don't know, for me it just felt very out of place, and especially because that's just a word that is utilized so much and misused and just everywhere, and just, I don't know, I just didn't need it. And the joke wasn't strong enough to justify its usage. As West discusses the portal and rambles on about being promised control of death, Vampirella realizes what is going on. This is a gateway to Drakulon, which she says isn't like Earth, it's made of negative energy, a death energy. Her planet is death-based. That's ridiculous and I love it. And the godly couple make up and make out, leading us into issue 4. Vampirella realizes that they want to turn Earth into another Drakulon, and so Vampirella suggests a really obvious solution. She's no match for them, especially now they've been boosted with reagents. So you know, hint hint, wink wink. Do you get it? What's gonna happen? Well, we do, but West doesn't for some bizarre reason. So Vampirella charges in against the two death gods and gets herself killed via neck snap. A fine choice, one favored by the highest quality of heroes. Wonder Woman, Superman, The Flash. And for some reason, it takes Herbert West, Mr. Re-Animator, Mr. I injected a head by itself with reagent just to see what would happen. This man, it takes him 6 pages to figure out that she wanted him to inject her with the new reagent, the superior one. The purple one. He's too busy pontificating, and I mean, it's nice, oh woe is me, the science melodrama, but come on now. Come on, Tucker. Nice little Vampirella aliens joke throwback for you. Vampirella, I give you life. So she's charged up and purple, and she goes through the portal and decapitates husband Death right out the gate. Vampirella says that now she is a goddess and leaves our Lady Death stranded. Oh, sorry, Lady Death is another character. Leaves our Lady Aztec God of Death stranded inside the portal between worlds. Ice cold. Vampirella is left wondering, is she dead or alive? But by the time she comes back, West has skedaddled. He knows better than to stick around. The death wave from a dead dimension. Sounds like the title of a bad pulp novel. I see you, Bunn name reference over there. The editor's name, Matt Idelson, and the letterer's, Taylor Esposito, are also referenced in this drawing. See that? Nice touch. West assumes that she's going to be looking for him, but he's ready because now he's got purple stuff. Oh man, what an experience. It's a mixed bag, but overall, I really had a lot of fun. Let's start with the positives. This is a lot of fun, largely because it just goes all in. It's a universe where all these characters exist and all this is just happening and feasible and everybody's on board. And that sort of thing makes it have a kind of internal logic that helps hold it together. The two parts do feel very dissonant at first, with West and Vampirella feeling very much like separate entities. But once the connection is made between the Death God, Vampirella, and West, it comes together. It feels cohesive even though West and Vampirella don't meet for a little while after that. West in particular is very true to form. He feels completely in character, the arrogance, the obsession that drives away all else, so he can be manipulated but also oblivious to how others are reading the situation. Like how people assume he's having a thing with Lady Death God and it never even crossed his mind. His only really odd moment is not thinking to inject Vampirella at the end. Because yes, he's a genius, but he's also fallible and nowhere near as clever as he thinks he is. But many of his flaws stem from arrogance and poor social skills. Injecting people is always his go-to, including himself.
Hi.
God, Herbert, you're actually...
No, it's just a wee solution. So I don't have to sleep, just to keep the brain sharp.
That clip was only in the director's cut, by the way, not in the theatrical cut, because in this movie about zombies and all of that jazz and dead people injecting people's heads, that was too far. Drug addiction? No. When it comes back to West not figuring it out for all those pages, it comes across as a bit patty, a little bit like forced drama. Vampirella is in her action hero mode, but her dialogue is heavy on the more quote-unquote relatable current side. Sometimes it works, or sometimes it feels like you're reading a MySpace page or a LiveJournal page. Oh, was that dated? Well, so will some of these lines be. That was not grammatically correct. I too am also dated when I use slang, but I know I'm doing it and I call myself out for it. Dear Diary, mood apathetic. The idea of Vampirella having these ancient Drakulonian enemies on the Earth is an intriguing one, but the stakes do feel rushed and they never fully develop. And yet I was compelled. It's probably my deep love for the Re-Animator universe and my fondness for Vampirella. But the more this went on, the longer I read it, the more fun I had with the idea. If you can accept the idea on its terms and go into it like that, this will be a very fun experience. If not, then it may be a very trying one. The idea of these two coexisting in the same space didn't feel all that odd, though of course this is subjective. I can see some people opting out of this at a concept level or not being drawn to the execution. The art for me was hit or miss. Some panels I loved and will stay with me, giant hell portal and the like, and sometimes the use of splashes of color were eerie and evocative. There's some nice stuff done with the reagent reflecting in people's eyes or in the veins. However, at other times the color dominates, like in the battle panel, that's just a lot of red. And sometimes the characters could feel posed rather than dynamic, or the lines could be harsh, and other times they would feel very lively, so it varied. With the trade, for all of you know that I enjoy trades, you get the variant gallery in the back, which I am a huge fan of. So you don't have to do that thing where you have to pick between covers, which for me is a huge plus. I'm a huge fan of trades. I like this one. It's good quality. If you're interested in picking it up, well, I have the link down below. It'll take you to Dynamite where you can pick it up. It's not an affiliate link. It's just a link back directly to the source. Now, there was a nerdy question that came to light regarding this while I was doing all the research. And that question is, get ready to go full comic book guy. Where in the Dynamite universe, or rather when is this taking place? Or is it in a different universe? This is because of an event called Prophecy. Let me explain. Prophecy was a Dynamite Comics event from 2012 that ran for 7 issues and centered around the Mayan prophecy that the world would end in 2012, which it didn't. Or did it? No, it didn't. In this event, Red Sonja, Vampirella, Herbert West, Ash Williams, Dracula, and more all fought together. So Vampirella and West should at least be aware of each other because of this event, unless it's a separate universe or people just forgot about it. Bunn stated, "I thought it must have already been done. It's such an obvious crossover, but since it hadn't, we worked up a pitch and sent it in." I mean, maybe he meant a direct crossover? Because Prophecy was an event. I reached out to Dynamite and actually got an answer, and that was Dynamite plays fast and loose with continuity. So for those who were wondering, and I've been on forums, so I know some people were, that's the answer. So yeah, this comic won't be for everybody, but it worked for me. It wasn't perfect, but as a fan of both of these things, especially Re-Animator, it was right up my alley. There was a lot of love and excitement behind the concept itself, and that translated into the execution. And that's always entertaining to experience. But those were just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Do you like the idea of this crossover? Are you here for the Warren-inspired art? Not for you? Disagree with me entirely? I've been injecting too much reagent directly to the veins? Share all your thoughts down below, and while you're down there, please do all of the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.